how did you know you were at Atlantis? Is that something like how did you know?
Yeah, it was some kind of an out of body. So I have some guides that occasionally come in, not very often. Jesus is one of those, just a few times in my life, just comes to me and says things. And somebody came in and said that to me. So I don't positively know that.
Right.
But I know my human capabilities were far advanced in this body.
Do you think you could locate it in this world?
Yeah, I probably could. I've wondered about that for 26 years. And maybe, the Canary Islands or the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, those islands there. Things change geologically.
And how long?
I don't have the answer to that.
Right. How long were you there? Like when you're with this woman and...
It was a very fast experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it was maybe a couple of minutes, but a lot happened in those 2 minutes.
Like what else? She after she said she knows everything about you, right? So she's basically saying to you, I just know everything you're thinking.
Right.
Are you given more information?
All my lifetimes.
Oh.
Because at that level of psi ability, people see each other's lifetimes. They kind of have this history that goes along with any being. So when she communicated, I know everything about you, she was seeing all my lifetimes, kind of like a download. People talk about in near-death experiences, the kind of life review process where it's all in one thought. So that's when expanded. It's an expanded experience of time, like vastly expanded.
Right. And so she's not just seeing where you came from. She's seeing everything that happened, maybe even before Atlantis. I don't know.
Yeah. And future.
So maybe this isn't. I don't even know how to ask this.
It's like at a soul level. When people have near-death experiences, they're seeing all.
But when it comes to the timeline and all the lifelines, is this something that you experience or can think of linear? I can't even speak. Like in a linear timeline, like
yes.
Or is there like a multiple layers through space time that are kind of conflicting with one another?
It's mostly a linear timeline, just to shorten it.
Right.
Just to get the concept across, it's mostly linear.
And then after that experience in Atlantis.
So let me continue with that experience.
Yeah, please.
My immediate reaction is, oh no, she knows everything about me, like all the bad things as well, right? Because we have all these deep hidden thoughts of everything,
right. And there's like shame or something inside. Yeah.
She knew I would respond that way. And so her immediate response, which was simultaneous with my thought of being unworthy, was unconditional love. And she just poured this unconditional love to me. And it just filled my mind. And that was my first human experience of unconditional love in this lifetime.
Wow.
And so I just dropped all my defenses and just became completely vulnerable and open and just accept it and let it pour in.
Wow.
And so I'm sitting there now for about 10 seconds in this unconditional love. And then everything disappeared. Everything went black. And now I'm being unconditionally loved by God, the source of all being. And I'm in the kingdom. And I'm like, there's no human perception at all. There's no separate me, Carroll Vance. There's just the loving part of me goes through. And it's this very smooth transition of experience. I'm still me. I'm still me. I'm still me in the world. Now I'm still me in front of God.
Are you
very smooth?
Are you with a physical form, or
no?
You're just stripped of everything except for your consciousness?
Yeah, it's completely outside of space-time. And I would describe it just purely as mind, the mind of God, and there's the mind of me. And in this unconditional love flow, I'm experiencing God, four things, 4 points of view. I'm experiencing me being loved by God. I'm experiencing me loving God back. I'm experiencing God as receiving my love. And I'm experiencing God as giving me love. It's four things simultaneously. And that is like Jesus's I and the Father are one.
Are you alone? Is there
Yes.
a sense like you're in a heaven place?
So that's my first thought was like, where is everybody? I mean, it was my first thought.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I'm aware of like this massive like cloud of knowing. You know, there's this great book, The Cloud of Unknowing by this Spanish mystic, I forget who. And it's like beyond infinity. It's not something that a human can comprehend. And I've never been able to communicate it, but it's like all of us, you're there, Alex is there, everybody you know, everybody I've ever known is there. And they're in this state of incredible happiness and playfulness and childlikeness. And it's an experience of being completely taken care of. That and happiness. And I understand Source as having one agenda, and it's the happiness of all beings that were created by Source and are there.
So what's it?
Just go ahead.
So what's it like when you leave after experiencing that kind of happiness?
Good question, right? So I'm sitting there in all this, and it's like I'm just getting the basic concepts there. It's kind of like just like a glimpse.
Right.
And it's out of time. So the questions and the answers that follow, it's a logical sequence as opposed to a time-based sequence.
Right.
Right. So any questions I had are just immediately answered with experience. And then all of a sudden, boom, I'm back in the world on planet Earth. And there's a woman about 12 feet in front of me smiling at me because she knew what was about to happen to me. I was going to have this mind-blowing experience of God. And I'm just like, wow, I'm just completely blown away. And then for about 10 more seconds, I'm there, and then it fades out, and I go back into a deep sleep.
Do you have any idea who that woman might have been?
Yeah, that's my soulmate.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I've known her in many, many lifetimes, probably 100. We've been soulmates.
So that's kind of like
1 out of 10 lifetimes.
There's like, I forget what they called it, but the Greeks had an idea of having a soulmate that you're separated from. I think I forget what word they used, but it seems like that could be the thing, right? Where you're separated early on, and you're spending your existence to find this person. There was, I think, 3 different versions of that, but I never remember the name of it. So was that like your first experience like that, having jumped? What do you call it? Jumped somewhere, or was that bilocating?
It's bilocating. Consciousness is a very strange thing. You can just jump into somebody else's consciousness, which happened to be mine. And so it's bilocation because it's full experience. And sometimes in bilocation, there's the you that you bilocated from on top of that experience. So
you said you said you've bilocated into yourself. You've bilocated into other people?
For remote viewing, like murder cases and missing people.
Okay.
That's the best source of information I found.
Well, let's swerve into that really quick before we go back into life, past lives and future lives. Because again, when I back to my first Inverted World book, I spoke to a bunch of psychics, remote viewers who were trying to help police solve cases. Police were reaching out to them being like, we need help finding a body. Sounds crazy, but some of these people were effective. And this is in America. I think one was in Switzerland. So are you asked by authorities to help, or are you reaching out to them for saying you can help? How does that work?
So usually it's friends of friends that know I can remote view. And so they'll just contact me, and I'll just do it on my own. I'll have a sense of whether or not I can work with police. In the last case, I couldn't work with police, and I know they were involved.
Oh, wow.
It was drugs. It was a murder by people that were involved in the drug trading business.
Oh, wow.
So and the police were kind of corrupt, so I couldn't.
This wasn't in Long Island, was it?
I usually just work with the family member.
Okay, right.
And they'll hire other remote viewers as well, and we don't know who's viewing, and then we'll find out later.
Wow.
And compare notes.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I want to get back to the past lives and stuff and to your experiences. So at what point, I think you said it was in 1998, you had a situation that happened. Can you describe what happened? I think you were hiking, right?
All right. That was this was what started off all of these far out experiences of the phenomenon. That was 1996, 28 years ago. So I was in Colorado in the Collegiate Peaks area and just climbing 14,000 footers. I'd just come down from Missouri Mountain, and I was sitting there at this beautiful lake that's just south of the peak at 13,000 feet. And it was beautiful. I mean, just nobody was around for miles. Okay. And I'm just sitting at this lake, just looking out at all of nature and the peace that was there. And I see like this 50-foot diameter ship, silver saucer, come down about 100 feet from me, 100 feet elevation. And they just kind of like knock you out so that you are now like in a super deep sleep. And then they do whatever they want to you. And then you wake up. And when I woke up, I had tinnitus in both ears. And it's remained identical for 28 years.
Wow.
So there's probably implants in both ears. 4 weeks later, 6 weeks later, I noticed this kind of like bump opposing my elbow. And you can kind of see it here.
What?
So,
yeah.
So they do implants, and occasionally, from what I know, they try to wrap them with your own, they'll take skin scoops, right, and wrap them.
Okay.
So your body will not reject them.
So for those who are,
I think this got rejected.
For those who are,
I don't know. Okay. I mean, this stuff, they knock you out so badly.
But who's they? Can we just explain that a little bit?
I want to unpack a lot here because when I saw the picture you posted, I was like, whoa. And it looks even crazier just now. For those who are just listening, you showed us on your right, inside of your right elbow, what you say could be an implant from this experience. And it's big.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's my body growing around it. The doctor said it's kind of like scar tissue around something. He didn't know what the object was. He said, don't worry about it.
But when you talk to the doctor, did they just think you're crazy? Did they ask you if you've had enough water? Or if you do drugs?
How do you
explain
how do you broach that topic at the doctor? They always ask.
The doctor was very cool, but I didn't want to discuss any of my experiences with them.
Right.
Yeah, I was wise enough and not to, but now it's kind of okay to come out.
Right.
I have an implant. It's like a grain of rice seed in my groin as well, groin area. Wow. And that's very common.
So how soon after the 1996 situation, did you know right away about the elbow implant when you woke up?
I didn't know. I didn't notice anything. There. All I had was this horrible ringing in my ears.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is terrible. It took me about 10 years to get used to it.
Oh my goodness.
But I was like, what happened to me? I don't, understand this. I didn't know anything about abductions then. I didn't believe in ETs back then, I hadn't read Whitley Strieber's Communion,
Right.
So I was pretty freaked out.
And
from the tinnitus.
A lot of abductions, people say, happen in these forests. You say you saw a saucer, a rather large saucer. Yeah. And is that the last thing you remember? Is descending saucer? That is
the last thing I remember.
And then that's it.
They just, as soon as, so if you've been around a saucer, you notice immediately like this override of consciousness. It is a very strange experience. It's like the saucer is conscious and all sound stopped. everything went quiet. It is, the first time you experience this, it's like a huge shock.
When you
like,
say
what is happening?
when you say override of consciousness, do you mean because it just appearing is almost an overload on your senses, or it actually has an effect? Maybe if you might not even know, but on your surroundings.
I think it has an effect on surroundings, and this has been reported a lot in Missing 411. So that was years after my experience. I had no idea that other people reported that as well. One of the common reports is everything goes quiet.
Right.
No more animal sounds, no nothing, no wind sounds, nothing, total silence.
Wow.
And you feel the presence of something, and it's very massive, and it kind of like fills your mind.
Would you say that these would you classify them as a certain entity? Were these the Palladians, or was it something different?
No, I thought about that, and I don't know who they are. They're relatively benign. I think they're just doing some basic experiments.
Right.
Maybe this elbow thing is like some cancer or virus research. Inject a virus.
Right.
I don't know. I think it's probably the Greys, but I don't know.
Yeah.
There's biological Greys. They're the worker bees.
Right.
Really, the question is who's commanding those guys.
Right.
And, I could go remote view and look into it, but I've been scared.
Do you think they could see you if you remote view there?
I just don't want to go back into that experience, because after it for like 15 years, I felt there was something in my head,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like crazy land. I didn't tell anybody about this abduction for like 26 years, not even my experiencer friends, because if you have something put in your head, that's crazy land, right?
It sounds like it, but like I said, for the one book I was writing, a gentleman I spoke to has a very similar experience to you.